He lost everything, and no one even noticed. No dramatic moment, no loud collapse, just silence, the kind that slowly eats your thoughts. Ethan sat on the edge of a cracked sidewalk, holding a bag that felt heavier than it looked. Inside it, 2 shirts, an old notebook, and a future that didn't exist yet. The sun was setting, but he wasn't going home, because there was no home anymore. 3 weeks earlier, life was simple. Not perfect, but stable. His mother worked long hours. He helped wherever he could. They didn't have much, but they had enough. Then the factory closed. Just like that. One announcement, one paper on the wall. Hundreds of people, suddenly unnecessary. His mother tried to stay strong. She smiled, said everything would be okay, even when the kitchen went quiet. Bills piled up like unanswered questions. The landlord stopped knocking politely. Then one afternoon, the locks were changed. No arguments, no second chances, just a cold door and a life pushed outside. Ethan watched his mother hold back tears, pretending it was temporary, but he could see it, the fear, the exhaustion, the uncertainty. That night, he made a quiet decision. He wouldn't let her carry everything alone. The next morning, he started searching for work. Anywhere, anything. He walked into stores with hope, walked out with silence. "You're too young. We're not hiring. Leave your number." They never called. Days stretched longer. Food became smaller. Sleep became lighter. He started skipping meals, pretending he already ate. His mother noticed, but said nothing. Some conversations hurt too much to speak. One evening, after another rejection, he sat at a bus stop as wind pushed dust across the empty road. People rushed home, holding groceries, laughing, living. He wasn't part of that world anymore. His phone battery died, his pockets were empty, and for the first time, he felt truly lost. He stared at the ground and whispered, "Maybe this is where it ends." The wind answered, cold and indifferent. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt meaningless. Then, he noticed something small, an old delivery bike parked beside a closed cafe. The owner, an elderly man, struggling to lift heavy boxes alone. Ethan stood up, helped quietly. No introduction, no expectation, just effort. The man nodded, slightly surprised. He handed Ethan a bottle of water. "Thanks, kid." That was all. But for Ethan, it meant everything. Because it was the first time in weeks someone looked at him, not through him. The next day, he returned. Not for money, just to help. He cleaned, lifted, arranged, whatever was needed. The old man never promised anything, but he allowed Ethan to stay. Between tasks, Ethan observed everything. How customers spoke, how orders were handled, how small details made people return. He wasn't just helping, he was learning. Days turned into routine. Routine turned into discipline. One night, the old man asked, "Why do you keep coming?" Ethan paused, then answered honestly, "Because I don't want to stay where I am." The old man smiled, quietly. A week later, he handed Ethan a small opportunity. "Take these deliveries, keep what you earn." It wasn't much, but it was movement. Ethan rode that old bike like it was his only road forward. Rain, heat, long distances, he didn't stop. Some days he earned almost nothing. Some days he got lost. Some days customers slammed doors, but he kept going. Late nights he wrote in his notebook, ideas, mistakes, lessons. He studied patterns, asked questions, improved routes.
While the city slept, he planned. While others complained, he adapted. While others waited, he moved. Months passed. His confidence grew, slowly, quietly. He started saving, coin by coin, not for comfort, but for change. Then one day, the bike broke. Chain snapped, wheel bent. Everything stopped. He stared at it, heart sinking, because that bike was everything. For a moment, fear returned, The same fear from the day he lost his home. But this time, he didn't freeze. He repaired it himself. Borrowed tools, learned from videos, failed, tried again, fixed it. Something clicked. He realized he didn't need perfect conditions, he just needed persistence. From that day, he pushed harder. More deliveries, better service, longer hours. Customers started requesting him by name. Small tips became bigger. Trust started building. A year later, he saved enough to buy a second-hand bike. Not shiny, but his. Then he did something unexpected. He hired someone, another boy struggling like him, then another, then another. What started as survival became a small delivery service. People noticed, not loudly, but gradually. The same streets that saw him walk hopelessly now saw him lead. The aching doors that once closed now opened. Years passed, and the small service turned into a growing company, efficient, reliable, trusted. Ethan moved his mother into a warm apartment, nothing luxurious but peaceful. One evening, she looked around, eyes filled with quiet pride. "You did this," she whispered. Ethan shook his head gently. "No, we survived this." Later that night, he drove past the old bus stop. Same cracked sidewalk, same wind, same silence. He parked, stepped out, and stood still. He remembered the boy, sitting there, believing it was the end. He almost smiled, because losing everything didn't end his story. It stripped it down to the beginning. It removed comfort, removed excuses, removed fear of failure. When you have nothing, you stop being afraid to try. People now envied his life, the business, the stability, the calm confidence, but they never saw the empty nights, the silent hunger, the broken bike, the moments he doubted everything. They only saw the result. Ethan looked at the sky, breathing slowly. The air felt different now, not heavier, not lighter, just earned. He realized something simple but powerful. Success isn't built in bright moments, it's built in quiet decisions, repeated when nobody is watching. The boy who lost everything built discipline, built patience, built resilience, and eventually he built a life they envied. Not because it was perfect, but because it was earned, piece by piece, in silence. So if life ever strips everything away from you, don't panic. Sometimes losing everything is life's way of giving you a blank page, and blank pages are where the strongest stories begin. If this story stayed with you, keep listening, because the next one might be yours.